Genshin 5.0 Natlan is finally here, and with it comes a whole host of new features, including brand new characters Mualani and Kachina, but with Natlan also comes world level 9, with bosses that are actually above level 100 now. So in this video, we're going to give you my build guide and gameplay tips for Mualani and Kachina, as well as to take them to the boss from each region to see how hard world level 9 actually is. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. All footage shown is from the creator experience server and is subject to change. Thank you to Hoyoverse for letting me experience it. And I will begin with our Kachina guide. The most important thing and the most impressive thing about Kachina is how well she can use the new artifact set. Not really about the 2-piece with the energy, it's more about the 4-piece. After equipping a reaction related to their elemental type, the equipping character gives both of those types that contributed to the reaction a 12% damage bonus if they're not from Natlan, and a 40% damage bonus if they are from Natlan. 40% is around about on par with the most broken buffer in the game, Farina, and bigger than a Kazuha buff. And so just by virtue of equipping this artifact set, she is giving a massive buff to her team and also for herself technically. After testing her as a main damage dealer, as an on-fielder, as well as a Navia partner, as well as a double Geo partner with Chiori. Unfortunately, I won't be showing that Abyss footage in this video, but you will get to see me use some of these teams against the new world level 9 bosses. I generally like to go Fav, but some teams don't need the energy, and so the Fontaine Craftable is perfect for her because her damage scales off of defense. You do want to build her for damage. It's not insane, but it's definitely not half bad either, in particular when you get up to Constellation 6, although I will tell you I did almost all of my testing at C0, and just the buff that she gives is already fantastic enough and worth a slot. I found it performed pretty close to on par with Chiori on the Navia team, Chiori or Zhongli or Albedo or whoever else you use as the Geo in your Navia team. So I can highly recommend you build Kachina if you have Navia, but there are more teams that we'll talk about in a minute. So with our build guide out of the way, let's check out the first team that I use Kachina on. I'm going to introduce a new team for each boss that we fight. And since we're doing one boss per region, let's start with just a simple little cryo Regisfine. I'm quite interested to see how much harder the Regisfine will be at world level 9. I really like this team because Kachina is going to be activated after you use Farina, and so she's actually going to buff both Farina and Navia on this team, which is great because for certain teams, as you can see, it is level 103, and if we kill it, we're gonna get more drops than usual, minimum 3, sometimes 4, and yes, there is 3, so you always get 3 now. Excellent. But I really like this team because, yeah, like I said, Kachina is both buffing Farina and Navia. The Xiangling variant, it's a lot more awkward to get a Xiangling buff. You can still do it, but I end up preferring this team, and you're just giga buffing your Navia. So the more invested your Navia, the better this team will be. Next team is a bit of a weird one. You wouldn't expect to further not max out Novelet's passive, but the Kachina Chiori core is very, very strong. You wouldn't expect this team to be particularly good because you're not maxing out Novelet's passive, but in practice, I actually found it got very similar clear times to the Hyper Novelet team, which is honestly crazy. Oh, I did that rotation wrong. You're supposed to start with Novelet's skill. But I found it performed extremely, extremely well, especially in more sustained fights. And also, because you're using so many Geo characters, you're creating an absolute ton of crystallizes, and I'm barely getting knocked around, even though I don't have a shielder on this team. So this is actually one of the rare Novelet teams that I would even recommend without a shielder, which is kind of crazy to say. Yeah, this guy was resistant to Hydro, so obviously it took a lot longer to kill him than normal. And of course, he's level 103, so it is a longer fight than normal, so that's why it doesn't appear to do as much damage. But yeah, if you have Novelet and you want to either don't have Kazuha, or you want to use Kazuha on the other side, or you have Chiori or something like that, I actually really, really like this team. Next, of course, is going to be Arlecchino. Arlecchino also takes huge advantage of Kachina's buff, and so let's head over to Inazuma, and we're going to see if the Magu Kenki can give us a run for our money. I just realized I'm pretty big. Let's make me smaller. Sorry about that. So again, the big value of Kachina is that she just giga buffs. So if you're using very strong characters, you just do a ridiculous amount of damage. So I have found, I actually don't know if my Arlecchino is using the right artifact set, but I have personally found that that I get very similar clear times to something like either a mono... Oh, did I even get a Kachina thing on there? I don't know. I have personally found I get very similar clear times to a mono pyro team with Emily, who is a 5-star unit, or Xiangling, who is one of the best units for mono pyro in general, and you're getting the occasional crystallize helping you with stagger. So although it's not as much crystallize as you're going to get with Chiori, it's still a lot of crystallize. So surprisingly, this team is really good as well. And not just good, like this team is great. I really can't stress how valuable this artifact set is. And I would say that Magokenki was a little bit tankier for world level 9. Now let's check out Mualani. I've been loving Mualani. She is one of my favorite characters to play in the entire game. Let's check out, see if we can get 4 boss drops or not. We get 3 again. Hey, 3 is better than 2. For your build guide, her signature is obviously her best, but the Natlan craftable, the Ring of Yakshi, is amazing for her as well. It ends up being her best free-to-play variant, and she's definitely no slouch with this weapon. If you happen to have a high refined Widsith, as long as you're willing to reset if you get the attack buff and reset for either the damage bonus or the elemental mastery bonus, the Widsith can even outperform her signature weapon. So although my testing was all with the signature, as long as you're willing to do a little bit of work, you can replicate the very same thing with the 4-star Widsith. If you happen to buy the battle pass, the sacrificial jade is an excellent choice, but it does make her extremely powerful artifact set very difficult to use. Realistically, you're going to be overcapping on crit rate if you use a crit rate weapon such as the battle pass, because this broken artifact set gives her 40% crit rate, and she ascends with crit rate. So you're already starting at a ridiculously high amount of crit rate. So you generally will want to go with something else for her, like 2-piece, HP, and Hydro, or Heart of Depth if you're running the Sacrificial Jade. And maybe if you have absolutely godlike pieces that don't roll any crit rate, but you roll lots of HP and Elemental Mastery, you could potentially use this with Sacrificial Jade, although it's sort of, the jury's out. It's a mixed review as to whether you're actually going to be able to get a good artifact set for the Sacrificial Jade. I've heard people say that you definitely can, and that you definitely can't. And this is not my expertise, so you'll have to, weigh other people's opinions to decide for yourself. Personally, she's going to do enough damage that you're going to be fine either way. I realized I didn't talk about artifact stats for Kachina. You just want to go Defense Sand, Geo Goblet, and Crit Circlet. And then for Mualani, you go HP Sands, Hydro Goblet, and Crit Damage Circlet. You're almost never going to go for a crit rate, because again, you'll be overcapping on crit rate if you do. You don't want to level her skill, or you only want to level her skill and burst. You don't level her normal attack at all. And actually the same thing for Kachina. Ignore normal attack, level skill and burst for damage. But if you want to use low investment Kachina, you can just not level anything up at all. Heading over to Sumeru. First of all, check out how cool it is riding on her shark. Absolutely love her animations, and absolutely love the exploration you can get from riding on her shark. But for this team, you're going to rely on Farina and Xiangling, or Baizhu and Xiangling, to provide enough the burning and the enough pyro so that Mualani can vape all of her hits is Mualani's main goal. Pretty much any team that you want to build for Mualani is going to rely on her vaping. And not that kind of vaping, no. Vaporizing. So let's see what we get. 300,000 damage. We missed our crit there. And then our burst will do a cool 260,000 damage. Very nice, very nice. So this is a team I really like because it is comfortable, and it's generally pretty reliable unless there's already an innate aura on the enemy. But if you don't have those characters or don't want to use them, then using a different kind of melt variant with Nahida, Xiangling, and Zhongli. So for our Fontaine showcase, let's take this team versus Coppelius. I'm using Archaic Petra on Zhongli, which doesn't really work past the first rotation. Normally you could use instructors or something. But I really like this team. I love the huge numbers you can get. Let's see if we can get any huge numbers. 1, 2, 3, bop. I don't even see what that was. Anyone you see? Yeah, 300,000 damage. And then the burst hitting for, oh, the burst is already gone. So you're casually hitting for 300. In the Abyss, I've seen 450,000 damage with my setup with her nukes. So to me, she's been definitely one of the stronger characters. I don't know if she hits Arlecchino level. I'll have to build her and test her on my account to really say for sure. But I definitely think she very well might be. I think she very well might be a contender for one of the top 3 DPSs in the game. I think she almost definitely is one of the top 3, just as a question of whether she is comparable to Novet and or Arlecchino or not. I definitely think she might be. There are lots of cool teams that I have wanted to try. Using stuff with Dea is obviously going to be quite good. Maybe put her on the new Natlan artifact set. I think that's going to be quite solid. I've seen some people talk about Toma for his normal attack damage bonus, Candace for her normal attack damage. I've also seen some teams with Emily where you focus on Emily's burning damage. Overall, I think there's a ton of potential for really cool and creative teams. Maybe Mona can fit on here somewhere for her Omen buff. And I really think that with the Pyro Archon as well, she will see a huge buff. I have no doubt that she'll be a top DPS for sure after the Pyro Archon, if not right at release. But I will have to test her on my own account to say for sure. But now that we've tested all the regions with the level 100 bosses, let's check out the big boys of Natlan themselves. Wow, this guy is so massive. Is he an enemy? Holy, he's so huge. That's insane. All right, so let's fight our Natlan boy and see how good this team is. Also, I love how you can surf and jump with Mualani, but we're going to fight the Snorlax. Obviously, he's not a Snorlax, but I like him to call that because he's my sleepy boy. We are fighting Kong. I almost called him Kong Tomato. Kongamato. Wow, what a guy. I love him. He's amazing. So we'll set up our stuff and see what kind of damage we can do here. Cool, 250,000. 200,000. And then with the burst, we finish him off in one rotation. Heck yeah, 320. Huge, honestly. Although I think the rotations are extended because we're in Natlan, because that lasted longer. I think we got one. Yeah, that lasted longer than you should. I think you get extra Night Soul burst in the overworld or something. So let's see. Let's see if we can get. What do we get? 3. We get 3. Excellent. And then the final guy will be fighting the dragon. I mean, I kind of want to give the Candace Dea team a try. I think this sounds cool. But we're definitely going to give Dea the new artifact set. We'll steal it from Kachina. And I think the biggest thing I want to see for this one's one I haven't tested yet. We'll see if there's enough Pyro app to consistently vape. I don't know if this boss has any self-infusion mechanics, which would ruin our testing, but let's see what we can do. We'll use sack so we can reset, and let's go. Yeah, you can see it seems like we get extra Night Soul burst. So overworld isn't necessarily indicative, at least in Natlan, of the characters because of that mechanic, but that's okay. You still get an idea of how it's gonna work. I guess we will need to start out charging up a bit of energy. Ooh. No energy for Nahida's burst, so this is going to be a little bit scuffed. Okay, let's see how this goes. Ooh, big damage. Huge damage. Bop. Very nice. Very satisfying. Mualani is sick. She's super fun. Let's see if we can get anything here. 3. I got all 3. I don't know if you can get 4. I'm interested. It's great that you can get, even if it's always 3, still a huge win. Probably a small chance to get 4 that I just happened to miss. The other thing that World Level 9 does is increase the drop rates for all the overworld enemies, which is really cool. I don't want to make this video crazy long, so we won't go into all of that. But I'm a huge fan of the new characters. I think they're super strong, and I think they're super fun. I'll be making a full detailed Ultimate Teams guide for both of these characters once I can get my hands on them in my account. But thank you for watching this one as we tested out World Level 9 and the new characters. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.